Shalom and welcome to Dinim class number 24, part 5 in the What is a Shabbos Goy series. Okay, if you made it this far, you've listened to the previous 4 classes of What is the Shabbos Goy. Can I get a 1 or 2 on that, please? If you have listened to all 4 classes, type 1, so we know who you are. All right, we got John and Justin for sure. So John and Justin, play this little game with me, okay? We're going to do a little pop quiz. Little quiz. Go ahead. Again, this is for my review and for your review and for the listeners' review and for the sake of class number 5 here. Can you recall what we did in class 1? Hurry up. Don't putz around too much. Can you recall what we did in class 1? Remember way back? We opened up the original book, type 1, and we asked ourselves, what is the Shabbos Goy? And the book addressed where it comes from, how it works. And if you remember, we had just come from Beitzah 16 about our friend the Nachri and the Shabbat learning Torah over there, type 1. All right, let's make a little list here. I want to make a little list. Let's make a little list. All right, so class 1 was intro to Shabbos Goy plus inertia of Beitzah. Can I get a 1 or 2 on that, please? All right, so now number 2, the second class. I'm pretty sure the first one was just an intro. Is that right? Is my memory serving me correct? It was really a long-winded intro. In the next class, we ended, I think, with the Rambam. Am I right about that? We went into the Rambam and found Ger Code, if I'm not mistaken. Correct? Rambam and Ger Code. And the reason for the Rambam, so that Shabbos isn't light, as in like L-I-T-E, light in our eyes. Let's skip 3 because I forget 3. Let's go to 4. Then we'll go back to 3. So last week we did the Iyun, the real in-depth looking. Number 2, as I said, I got that. So last week we went real deep inside and wrapped it all up. Okay, so number 3, that was when we did the Beis Yosef. Remember that, Justin? We did the Beis Yosef and the Ramban and text. Okay. So we did extensive introduction to scenarios of Shabbos Goy. What is Shabbos Goy? Now remember, this is the B'nai Noach class. Are you aware of that? This is Dinim for B'nai Noach. Are you aware of that? Type 1 or 2. What's our initiative in the B'nai Noach class? Can anyone tell me our initiative in the 7 Mitzvahs B'nai Noach class? Can anyone tell me our initiative in the 7 Mitzvahs B'nai Noach class? You forgot already? To find Ger, look it up as 1, but really we want to find Ger Torah, because wherever there's Noahide law, there's a Ger, type 1. Every Noahide law is only able to be derived from Ger Torah, which is incredibly ironic for those people in the world that want to believe that there's no such thing as ger or ger Torah. Isn't that a wonderful thing? Yet, when you find Noahide law, it only exists because there was ger Torah. On that note, where does Shabbos Goy come from? Do you remember that? The 10 Commandments says to rest your ger. It doesn't say to rest your nachri, type 1. So since we rest our ger, it doesn't say rest our nachri. We are not responsible for resting the nachri. Can the nachri work for a Jew on Shabbos? The answer is yes. But the rabbis said that's a dangerous loophole. We have to restrict that. So we restrict it. Shabbos Goy is a very specific inyan for Noahides. A nachri is not a ger, type 1. A ger can be defined as a non-nachri, type 1. Nobody gets into the ger because the ger is not a Shabbos Goy. By definition, the question for the ger is, how does, in fact, the ger keep Shabbat? 180 degrees opposite from Shabbos Goy. It is forbidden to use a ger as a Shabbos Goy. There is a ger today. See Mishnah Berurah 304:3. He who keeps the 7 laws. Then a question was sent to Michael Schulman, asking if a Noahide can be a Shabbos Goy. He typed yes. Do you realize the problem with Mr. Schulman typing yes? If a Noahide is a ger keeping 7 mitzvahs, anybody keeping 7 mitzvahs is a ger, as long as they're not engaging in shituf. So if you were to have colloquially, whatever the, I'm tongue-tied here, I give up. I give up on that. If you have a person keeping 7 laws, tongue twister, I'm tied up on that one. Slang term with Noahide. You know what I'm trying to say. Let's just say that he happens to be a kosher Noahide. Then it is forbidden deraisa to use him as a Shabbos Goy. If you have a Noahide that is still in shituf, he is allowed to be a Shabbos Goy. So when Michael Schulman is saying the Noahide can be a Shabbos Goy, Russell Kirk is asking the question, well, which Noahide are you? Does everyone hear our new question? I'm a Noahide. That's very interesting. What kind? Which Noahide are you? What do you mean? I'm just a Noahide. No, there's no such thing as I'm just a Noahide. Are you a shituf Noahide, or have you rejected shituf Noahide? And people don't realize they have to make that distinction. So to say that there's no ger Torah is beyond ridiculous. The ger Toshav has Kabbalah, personal acceptance between you and God. I've taken on 7 mitzvahs. You're now a ger Toshav Bizman Hazeh. If you have not made that declaration between you and God, you're a Noahide or a Ben Noach. And you have Ben Noach Torah, which means you're a Nachri. And in your Nachri state, if you really are a Ben Noach, then you leave the level of a Nachri because you've rejected shituf. You just are without Kabbalah. So the first stage is to recognize, are you with or are you without Kabbalah? Are you with or without shituf? Then you ask yourself, am I with or without Kabbalah? Then you ask yourself, did I have Kabbalah in front of 3 Jews? Goy, Ben Noach, Ger Toshav, the Shita of the Ritva, the famous Ritva, Makos 9a. with the consequence of, do I then keep Shabbos? Am I a Shabbos goy? Do I not do malacha for a Jew? Do I keep Shabbos like the sheet of Rashi, which takes you to Krisis 9a? Am I keeping Shabbos because I'm an Eved or because I'm a righteous Ger Toshav? See the little Baba Rebbe Sicha or Hilchos in the Rambam, 2014 Hilchos Shabbos, in the commentary of the Magid Mishnah, who says the Sachir, Ger Toshav, who does not do malacha for a Jew, not necessarily a Sachir, a worker. It can be just a Ger Toshav, i.e. a righteous non-Jew or a righteous non-Nachri who loves God and is keeping Shabbos as they're connected and attached to Israel, which biblically we call that the Nilva Ger Jacques type 1. See Isaiah 56, 6 and 3, and see Isaiah 14:1. So in our class 1 man, I'm totally tongue twisted today. As you can tell, I'm a little bit subdued. I have a cold. I got a little sick in Jerusalem yesterday, so I'm a little bit not on the top of my game from a point of articulation. But thank God the wisdom tooth is passed and the stiff neck is passed. It's like God had to get one more Zetz with me to get me on a cold. So the kids are at their grandparents' house for Shabbos, for the end of Hanukkah, and I intend to rest up. And next week, I think we're going to be very strong. The Soloveitchik work will get done, hopefully. I talked to Rav Moshe. London dates will be secured in terms of speaking, God willing. And then I'll be paying a visit to our friends down in Cape Town, Ado and Jacques, to name a few. So, again, if we're going to look at the first class in this series of 5, what is a Shabbos goy? Is it an insult? Is it a halakhic status and term? Am I a Shabbos goy? Am I not a Shabbos goy? Should the Jew have a Shabbos goy? Where does it come from? Is it forbidden? Is it permitted? When is it allowed? How does it contrast between Ger and Nachri or Ger and Noahide? Does it fit the model of this class that all Noahide law derives from Ger Torah? We've already answered those questions. Is that list of questions profound to you? I think they're profound. Do you realize that these questions are missing from the Noahide world? How often have you guys ran into these questions in your own personal lives? You meet a Jew on Shabbos, a Jew that knows, or even during the week, but theoretically, is the attitude, you're my Shabbos goy? Another way of saying that is, are you a Nachri? If you're a Nachri, it's because you believe in Shituf. How many of you believe in the Trinity? So then we don't have Nachrim here. We don't have Shituf. By definition, then that's Ger Toshav in this time. Forbidden Deraisa to be a Shabbos goy. You are applicable to Krisis 9a, which you will break malacha one of 3 ways. You are not to keep malacha, l'chadish dat, which again, Ask Noah has not got right the definition of that. We follow Shitas Brisk, because everybody follows Shitas Brisk on that. The other Shita is Shitas Rashi, which the Sheva Mitzvahs Hashem, Hebrew version of Divine Code. I can show you inside, they reject Shitas Rashi, yet they quote Shitas Rashi, which means they have no idea what they're putting together. I can show you inside. That's for in-person. Jacques, remind me to show you that in Cape Town. We'll do a class in Cape Town. It doesn't make sense for me to quote it here. We got to see it inside. Really, write that down, Jacques. Write that down. To me, seriously, write this down. For me to show you and the group, Shitas Rashi to Weiner on the Sugya Chadish Dot. Okay? Write that down and remind me to bring those books and show you inside. Should I avoid a situation that would cause a Jew to treat me 100%? Like the Rambam said, you're making Shabbos light in the eyes of a Jew. You're helping commit a major crime. It's putting a stumbling block before the blind. It is a major problem. A major problem. The next class was the Rambam. We saw Ger code in the Rambam. People think the Rambam is simple and stupid. When I say stupid, I mean like Rambam for dummies. We found the Ger code in the Rambam. Maybe did you think the Rambam knows the Sugya? Did you ever think that? And the Rambam tells you why Shabbos Goy is not good. It's only a technicality. We are not commanded the rest of a Nachri. Anything not a Nachri is a huge Avera. Jacques, you've heard of Parshas Rei, 14:21. Don't I, as a Jew, have to know who to sell the meat to or give the meat to? Don't I, as a Jew, know who can turn my lights on and who cannot turn my lights on? So we assume there's all Goy Akum Nachri today. Why would we assume there's no Ger Toshav? We have to assume it's only because they just don't know what it is. They have not learned it. Why it's not being taught, I don't know. I honestly don't know that. In my smicha, in Hilchos Shabbos, this was the most vague part of my smicha. And it's the part that I really looked into. I never wrapped my head around what is the real law of getting a goy to break Shabbos for the Jew. It was so hard to find that answer. Not because it was the one answer was hidden. It was a super conscious position. There were so many opinions. One said you're allowed, one said you're not allowed. Only when I got into my Ger work, retrospectively, I figured out and relearned the Inyan. So most say that Ger Toshav is only one living in the land. That's correct. That is the subjugated, conquered peoples, Ger Toshav, captives of war, the Meir Kahana Ger Toshav. That is one of Jubilee, and that is what people think is the only Ger Toshav, and that's what they think the only one the Rambam is talking about. They don't realize that the Rambam speaks of at least 3 different Ger Toshavs, or even 4: conquered, slave, righteous, and worker. They say, no, it can't be that. That's too complicated. The Rambam was never meant to be that complicated. Really. David Katz is making it up. No one agrees. No one says that. Well, no one wants to teach to all 4 different worlds of Ger Toshav at one time. Why do I do that? To show a super conscious position. People like to keep it real narrow and real single-minded. But that's not what the Rambam did, and that's not what the Torah says. The only reason why I have to bring the whole big picture is because when you teach Ger Toshav, righteous, non-Nachri, everyone trips him up and calling him a slave and the oval. So we have to redeem the other at least 3 types of Ger Toshav just to give solid footing for our friend, the Ger Toshav. Once upon a time, it was more common to deal with the Eved Kanani than a righteous non-Jew. Type 1. We spoke more about the Yovel, Ger Toshav, than the righteous one. Now, when they came up with Noahism in the 60s, they should have got it right and called it Ger Toshav. Meir Kahan wrote about it, and he said it is Ger Toshav and should be Ger Toshav, but the Machlokas Rishonim is tremendous. Meaning, the different views in the Rishonim is not so much that they're arguing, it's talking about 4 different Ger Toshavs. And for whatever it's worth, they deemed that Vendell Jones wasn't worth the effort to unscramble 4 types of Ger Toshav. So they took the easy approach, the second opinion of the Ritva, and called it Ben Noach without Beis Din, without a Kabbalah. And if we learn Eved, for him, there's no consequences because no one will actually make them slaves. Guess what happened? Those people that came through the Noahide movement grow up and refined. And they started asking questions. In fact, here in the room tonight is the first person that ever asked me that question. Isn't that right, Ross? I remember the time well. Rav Katzkin and Noahide keep Shabbos. And that's where it all began. You guys know the story by now. And thank God Ross is here tonight. So young Rabbi Katz went to the books. Here we had this Noahide from the Noahide movement continuing from the 60s. And there was no Ger back then. Isn't that something, Ross? No one was saying Ger back then. Not one. Didn't exist. Noahide Nations was the hottest thing around. And I went and I looked it up. 10 Commandments, 2010 Shemos. The Ger and your gates should rest. And I told Ross, I found the answer. And it looks like, yeah, a Noahide can keep Shabbos. It's the Ger and it can't be a convert. A convert's a Jew. The only problem is over there that Rashi calls him a Ger Tzedek. So I thought, okay, just poskin like the Ramban. Ramban says it's a Ger Toshav. So we go like the Ramban. To get over that Rashi, we had to look in Yevamos 48b. And I thought my little Ger idea was done. I remember the day well. Shabbos at a friend's house in Sfat. How in the world am I going to get over this Ger Tzedek convert is the one that keeps Shabbos? And that's when I snapped out of the trance. I had to admit to myself, which you guys know this is my staple by now, that I was kishufing myself. I was learning it wrong on purpose. Because my mind said, Ger Tzedek has to be a convert. David Katz, did you ever think maybe there's such a thing as a Ger Tzedek that's not a convert? And maybe you should just keep to the text and learn it right? And when I got over that little hump, which, Ross, I'm going to tell you after class my personal story about A.J. Hawk. I finally learned a piece of Talmud right. But it opened up Pandora's box. What is this Ger Tzedek non-Jew? To which Chaim Chlorfine, bless his heart, said, if you think you're going to conquer Ger Tzedek non-Jew, you are crazy and you're going to go down and you're going to lose. And you're going to threaten the existence of our book, The World of the Ger. And I said, Chaim, I'm telling you, there's a Ger Tzedek non-Jew. And it took me a good full 5 years to get that fixed. Lo and behold, the nuggets would come. And it turns out that a Ger Tzedek non-Jew, most appropriately in halacha, is the Eved Kanani, who gets circumcised in mikveh for the sake of servitude. And he takes on the mitzvahs of a woman. And he is a Ger Tzedek non-Jew. If he does not take on the mitzvahs of a woman, but only 7, and does not get mikveh or circumcision, he is called a Ger Toshav, to which that Rambam says does not exist today. Because we cannot take him out of slavery today. But an Eved Kanani is the Ger Tzedek that we accept at all times. How many of you are familiar with Hilchos Malachim and the Rambam, 10:9? A goy that keeps Shabbos is Chayiv Misa. A goy that learns Torah is Chayiv Misa. But if he wants to become a Ger Tzedek, he can. Guess who that Ger Tzedek is? Eved Kanani. Because it's taken from the same sugya in the Shulchan Aruch 304, Krisis 9a. Same stuff. Same code in the Rambam. Now, you can learn the convert from that, but don't assume that it's 1a. The original pshat is Eved Kanani. It happens to double as a convert, only you change the kavana of why he went in the mikveh from servitude to Jew. Just because it naturally lends itself that way. Just like Jethro was not a convert, but we learn conversion from Jethro. It's like a double entendre. I'll give you an example. How many of you have ever heard of Jason Kidd, the basketball player? I saw an interview on YouTube where Michael Jordan went up to Jason Kidd and he said, "Don't worry, kid, I like you. I'm going to take it easy on you tonight." How many of you just heard what I just said? How many of you just heard what I just said? 1 or 2. Don't worry, kid, I'm going to take it easy on you tonight. What did Michael Jordan mean? Did he mean like cats? Like, don't worry, cats, I'm going to take it easy on you. Don't worry, kid, I'm going to take it easy on you. Because his name was Jason Kidd. Or was he literally calling him a kid? Don't worry, kid, I'm going to take it easy on you tonight. Which one did he mean, Ross? Was he calling him a kid? Or was he referring to his last name, Kidd? Which one was it? No? Exactly, the answer is both. And that's how linguistics work. There's something called mishkafayim in Hebrew, glasses. From the Hebrew shakif, like hashkafa, to view. But do you know why the Hebrew makers made the term after the word hashkafa about 100 years ago in modern Hebrew? You know why? They could have called them like chazonim, right? The different words for view. Why did they pick out of all the language to see? Why did they pick hashkafa? No. Because there was a Greek term for glasses that sounded very similar to it. So they picked both at the same time. Superconscious position is a real thing. It works. And it's real. Slaves and converts lend themselves to each other. They're a little different, but they're sourced in the same spot, like Yisro. The righteous non-Jew is a little different. That's why everyone says, what do you do with this righteous non-Jew? Well, you have to elevate him, otherwise you demote him less than a Nachri. It's the same lunacy as saying a convert eats nevela. And the Rebbe in his Sikha answers exactly that gaping hole. And so does the Magid Mishnah. So does the Chafetz Chaim. So does the Ritva. So does the Rogachover. And all of a sudden, when we couldn't find Ger anywhere, we couldn't find Ger Toshav in this generation, When you get to the bottom of the halacha, all you find is ger toshav, meaning he was there the whole time. So why was it so hard to find? Because it turns out to find ger, to get it where it's easy and everywhere and clear, you have to dig out. You know, I'm making this number up for wow factor. I don't know how many versions of ger toshav there are. 5 minutes ago, I said 4. But let's say you got to find 10 kinds of ger toshav. If you're not prepared to find the Evid Kanani, the Evid Toshav, the Sachir, the righteous non-Jew, the Shituf, the Noahide, then you'll never get the Rambam, and you'll always call it Yovel. So I go on a world tour where I met almost everybody in this room. John, God willing, will meet you this coming year. And everyone has a problem with my work. Only one problem. Rabbi Katz, what you're saying is great, but can't you make a source book? I knew it wasn't my job. It's just not my job. So we go to Chicago, meet Rabbi Moshe Soloveitchik, and his father writes exactly what I'm telling you here, what I told Ross 6 years ago. Ross, it's been 6 years. And he wrote the book, defining ger toshav, and the nachri. And I asked Rav Moshe, can I translate the book? And he said, yeah. And God willing, when I get to Jacques in another couple of weeks, that book will be in my hand with approbation from Rav Moshe. I translated Rav Aaron Soloveitchik's work, Od Yisrael Yosef Ben Ichai. Rabbi Yo Schwartz gave a skama on that book about a week and a half ago. And it is the answer to, yes, indeed, there are 5,000 kinds of ger toshav. Yes, you can only find Noahide Torah through the ger Torah. Yes, there is a Shabbos for the nations. The only prohibition on a non-Jew, and this is according to Shitas Brisk. Jacques, I told you I got this thing polished up, did I not? Shitas Brisk is the answer how a non-Jew keeps Shabbos. And he has one stipulation for the non-Jew. Lachadish dat, which again, Ask Noah butchers the meaning of that. They translate it as making a new religion. That's just plain stupid. And you can quote me on that. You can all quote me on that. To translate Lachadish dat as make a new religion is flat out stupid. And Amaratzis. What it means is Dafka related to Shabbos, number one. Number two, keeping Shabbos like a Jew according to Judaism. So the non-Jew, the righteous ger toshav, would have to be keeping Shabbos in the name of and with intention of basically making his own version of Judaism. Jacques, isn't that what you explained to Michael Schulman in that email? Exactly the opposite of that. In your own words, you were saying, my name, state your name, Jacques. I keep Shabbos like a non-Jew, Rashi, Croesus, all that, blah, blah, blah. In other words, my intentions are 100% to not do it like a Jew or Judaism. When I have a meal, I'm not doing it to be a Jew. When I learn Torah, I'm not doing it on Shabbos to be a Jew. But not even a Jew, but Judaism. Meaning Judaism says I should be blah, blah, blah. You're doing it because you wanted to connect to God on Shabbos, through Shabbos. That's the sheet of Brisk. A true ger will not keep Shabbos through Judaism. If they wanted to, they would convert. And as Jacques pointed out many times, if he's converting, then he's a Nachri. And then he can be a Shabbos goy. So there's no way to be a Shabbos goy or keep Shabbos like a Jew if you're a ger. Otherwise, you'd be a Shabbos goy. You see the reasoning. They go hand in hand. It's rabbinic tradition. So when you remove yourself from Shabbos goy, you have broken the yoke of Judaism from your head. And what you've accepted is the Malchus Shemayim, the fear of heaven. You've taken your mazel. You're under the wings of the Shekhinah. You're the Zohar description of Ger Tzedek. You're connected to Malchus. That is fundamentally not a Nachri or a Noahide of Shituf. And it is fundamentally not a convert or in conversion. How do you guys feel about that? For some reason, that space people miss because it's not the common Evid Kanani, Sachir, in conversion. There's a group of people that simply love God and God loves them. They keep the 7 laws. They broke away from the church, New Testament, and Jesus and Shituf. They want Hashem and they want Geula. One day a week, they want Shabbos, the wisdom of Shabbos for what it is and how it is. They recognize there's a people of Judaism and a Jewish people. And like it says in Isaiah 14:1, they seek to attach to that and those people. Very simple formula. Very simple formula. To break that formula, besides being a huge perversion, crime against humanity, a vera in the Torah between you and God, to use a ger toshav as a Shabbos goy, or to even wrongingly use or abuse the Nachri even, to not care about the subtleties and distinctions, to claim that the Rambam never spoke of this, is a denial of Torah itself. I call that a kofar be'ikr. When I saw with my own eyes the email that a Noahide can lechatchila be used as a Shabbos goy without any stipulation of ger toshav and Shabbos goy and the shituf distinction, he's going to pay for that. And for the corruption and misinformation going around, there will be an atonement. They don't know. They think they know. And we're giving them the opportunity to know. And when the Soloveitchik work is going to drop the gauntlet, it's time to know. There's no more pass for not knowing. So again, the Rambam gave his reasoning, and then we went into the different drushes of the Ramban, the Beis Yosef, the Sifri. The bottom line is, Shabbos goy is allowed, but the rabbis said it's very dodgy. Don't abuse it. Only if you absolutely need it. And the best way is to get rid of it by realizing, where did Shabbos goy come from? We are not commanded the rest of a Nachri. So it's like we're making a plead to humanity. Mankind, we're suffering from a loophole. God commanded the rest of a ger toshav and not a nachri. While you are away from God, denying the Torah, you qualify to be a Shabbos goy. Through that, there creates the advent of servitude, subjugation, slavery, conversion, and harsh working conditions. God, however, makes a deal. If you take on the 7 laws properly, you are affixed to the nation of Israel, and they are commanded on your rest in a mitzvah l'chiyuso, and to give you their meat and not sell it to you. So if God himself hasn't made that clear yet, then I, David Katz, am making that plea today, right now. For the sake of God, please accept the 7 laws of Noah. Please reject Shituf. Please make a Kabbalah between you and God. And please make it known to the Jewish people that you exist and you've done those 2 things. That will make you a Ger Toshav today. It will remove the Shabbos Goy. It will bring the world into the universal Shabbat. It will usher in the Mashiach, as described by the Lubavitcher Rebbe, explaining the end words of the Rambam in Hilchos Mashiach. In the days of the Messiah, there will be no conversions. Very simple formula. Accept the 7 laws with Kabbalah and reject Shituf. That's all you got to do. And then there's no discussion. There's no corruption. And that's what I have to say about this. Anybody have any thoughts or feedback? It's very simple. The Nachri is very distant from God, and he doesn't know about the Torah and Shabbos. And therefore, he is not under the influence of God's command. He is considered blind. We have a mission to elevate mankind to behold the holy and divine. And as Addo has made it very clear, it is a simple formula. 7 laws, reject Shituf, have Kabbalah. That's all. You do that, you are a Ger Toshav. You are attached to as the 4th house of Israel. You've removed a level of klipa that you can start to function in the holy. Learning Torah and keeping Shabbos are part of your life. Mazel is part of your life. There's no need to bash Christianity and beat up the church, do counter-missionary work, and every day do a class about how Paul ripped us off. And the Torah is not speaking about Jesus. That's called a Noahide. A Noahide is a non-Christian. We're talking to Ger, the non-Nachri. The Torah is rejecting Nachriism. If the Torah is an ideological manifesto, it's called non-Nachriism. A Jewish apostate is called a Nachri. God warns throughout the entire Torah, to paraphrase and simplify, please don't be a Nachri. Do whatever you can to not be a Nachri. Do you know why going to space is a bad idea, so to speak? There's no yoke of heaven in space. You don't have to keep mitzvahs in space. God gave the Torah at Sinai. Sinai is where there are mitzvot. The Jewish people Cohen Levi Israel perpetually stands under the watch of the mitzvot. To go out from that is to turn oneself into a nachri, which God gave free will, and you can do that. If I eat pork on Yom Kippur with intention, I am a nachri. And then I have kids that were born into nachriism. They're nachri. If they are going to come back to Judaism before lost forever, they have to do tshuva. Learn why it's not right to eat pork, especially on Yom Kippur. Lose the apostasy label. Remove the klippah. Reclaim your holy identity. And come back under the commandments of God. If I remain eating pork on Yom Kippur, I deny my mazel, I believe I'm a nachri, and God is absent from my life. In that case, I'm an animal because I don't think about God and wisdom, and now only by the grace and kindness of God, he keeps me alive. Same thing with an animal. The Torah is saying Jewish people and non-Jewish people are suffering the same plight. It's called free will. We have a Yetzer Hara and a Yetzer Tov. Your Yetzer Hara will tell you to go away from God. The Yetzer Tov will tell you to go to God. The Torah tells you how to do that. And the formula is the same. Stop being a nachri and go to God. You can even say both are called ger. David said, I'm a ger in this world. Jewish people are called gerim in the land of Israel. Meaning if you're going to be a real Jew, go on the land of Israel. That's where you're called a ger. That's where God wants you. To the non-nachri of the world, be a ger. Remove avodah zarah. And you do it with a very simple formula. Take on 7 laws, remove shituf, and do it with Kabbalah. From that point on, the sky's the limit where you can go and where you want to go. God has given you a blessing of freedom. As great as you want to be, God allows you. Because God is good. And we want that same goodness for all of mankind. And we cannot allow perversion of the nachri. To allow the nachri to remain blind and lost, abused and exploited, even if it's out of ignorance and just not knowing any better on both sides. Well, I like being a Shabbos goy. No, you don't like being a Shabbos goy. Stop thinking that way. And that's pretty much all I have to say about this. So we'll wrap it up. I think by now we can finish the Shabbos goy series. And it should be abundantly clear what the law is for the nachri, the Noahide, and how it was brought about by Ger and Ger Torah, and what the kosher hashkafa behind it is. There's Ger and there's nachri, as there always is. You can't get the nachri law except through the Ger law. For the ger, it's an eye-opener. For the nachri, it's an eye-opener. And for those that deny ger Torah, it's an eye-opener. For the Jew, it's an eye-opener. And God willing, this class will open eyes, as far as this series is concerned, to the nature of Shabbos and Shabbos goy. Have a great Shabbos. Enjoy the rest of your Hanukkah. And I'm thinking we'll do She-Tooth in the next series. And that's my intention. See you.